So what do you do when you have no content to record, but something just recently happened and you don't really want to take time to edit something about it because this is a more candid discussion? Jason gets in front of a camera and goes live for you guys to talk about the pre-releases that happened this past week in my end of things. Now, I do believe the cutoff date is this Sunday on the pre-releases. Amber, give me a fact check on that.
You do it right up to the release.
I thought it was the 7th or something like that. Anyway, yeah, so in any case, you can see I'm totally prepared for this. I wanted to take a bit and share more of my experiences. I shared them briefly in the Meta Lab as I was judge on Saturday and got a chance to play on Tuesday. So I get a chance to share my play experience. I get a chance to kind of expand on my judge experience, though I don't think there's much to expand on from there. But as well, I want to talk about my opinion of this format as a whole, because I have a couple things to say about it. But first, I want to talk about my experience judging, which was a great deal of fun. First of all, my locals are always great to play with, and it's always a great experience just to get in with everybody and help them have a chance to experience the game properly. Though I did make a couple one rules there in regards to the way the Underworld team ability functions with sidestep. I've heard about it nonstop on Tuesday, and I have to, go back and apologize to the guys that got messed up on that one. So, but carrying on from there, the draft went very smoothly. Everybody was really happy to kind of get a touch of the things, get the new flavor in their hands. There were a couple of shockers with regards to at the Comic Warehouse how things went. I saw World's Finest get pulled, and in one of the harder fought games of the tournament, it lost to the Joker Lex duo. We saw Joker Lex pull twice at our venue. I saw an alloy, which I thought was going to run very rampant, and it was in the hands of one of our better players, but also got toppled by a Joker Lex duo played by the patient Mr. Mike. So all in all, it was an interesting weekend from the outside in. I also had to sit down and draft a little bit, so I got a chance to experience the draft for myself, and my pack had a Mizier Mala in it, so I think I've said it 8 times now, especially in that silly, terrible French accent that I have. But it was excited to pull that. Amber pulled the Clarion. Amber's experience was quite fantastic. She went 3-0. It's like 3 or 4 times she's done that now, and
It's the
third time she's done that. She ended up getting third, I believe, because points after you compare wins, points becomes the tiebreaker. So Amber did very well in this tournament as well. Her high point figure, if I remember correctly, was Spectre. Right. I'm totally like this is how in it to win it. I just played one yesterday, gave me a break. But Amber played a Spectre, and she did very well with it. It is a mobile cannon. There was one other rules there I didn't catch in any of the games, but I ended up correcting after the fact. Is a lot of people were talking, or the 2 people that pulled Kingdom Come figures were talking about how high their defenses were in hindering, and I had to correct them on that after the fact because you don't get that hindering terrain bonuses. The Kingdom Come trait kind of says no to that. There's still a couple things up in the air with regards to entities and some resources that we're not 100% on right now. So we're kind of playing that one by ear, and we're not going to announce anything with regards to that. But the hindering terrain bonus is a definite yes, because it's definitely not a character. The source is definitely not a character with the Kingdom Come team ability, unless you know something about that bush that you're hiding in that I don't. Overall, it was great. And Kingdom Come Green Lantern ended up winning our venue. So I move into yesterday, which is the chance that I had to draft the set for play. And it was an interesting experience. I got sitting across from Mike, 2 Mikes actually, Mike White, who consistently beats me every time I play against him. I think I've beaten him once ever. Mike Payne, and to my immediate left was Cecil. All local players. You guys know Mike Payne, of course, from the Meta Lab. Mike White is a local, and Cecil is another local. Both I'm very familiar with. I've played with them quite a few times. So Cecil to my left pulled an ally. Mike to my diagonal didn't pull particularly well, and he made it known both at the table and on Facebook. And I'm going to get into this discussion about the draft, and I don't disagree with him about how unfortunate something like that can be to happen. Mike pulled a demon as his rare, but he took a major force because he was drafting competitively this time around, and he drafted with points on the mind. So he took a major force and passed me a demon. Now in my pack, I had a Mary Marvel, and the rest of the pack didn't matter because it was going mostly to everybody else. And I was going to take that Mary Marvel, thank you very much, because she rocks 150 points. A 6 or 7 click dial, not a particularly long dial, but it's got a one-time stop click, and that one-time stop click comes with all the time regeneration with no negatives to the dice roll, which is wow. Makes Mary Marvel the comeback queen of the game, if you ask me, and that will be in my game experience in a bit. But then, so Mike passed me a demon. That was pretty much an auto pick for me because the demon is fairly well statted. He's, as far as the set is concerned, he's got Perplex, which in the environment of goodness knows what I'm going to get next, Perplex is it's a good thing. But then the next pack I got passed had Tin in it. So that was academic. Take Tin because Tin adds yet another Perplex. So now I've got Mary Marvel, the demon, and Tin, 2 Perplexers and Mary Marvel with her probability control and already beefy stats, which is amazing. The next pack, I had the choice between a Black Cat and the generic demon, the all dark one. And I took the generic demon because he has negative Perplex against your opponent. So by this point, I have 3 Perplexes. And then my final pick, final passed figure was a Witch. Now, because of the rules of play with everything, I had a 350 point team. It was tree fitty. and I ended up going 3-0. In the first round, I played against Mike, which was convenient because I was sitting across from him. And Mike's major force took my Mary Marvel down a couple times down to that last click. One time with it didn't help. My first attack against Mike, I attempted to try to finish off Booster Gold in a hurry. And that led to me, I needed a 6 to hit, missed I perplexed up my attack. I didn't need much to hit. The first attack missed with a 4, and then the second attack was a critical, or second roll with the probability control was a critical miss. And then I lost a little bit of movement on the hypersonic, so I was 1 square further away or closer to Mike than I wanted to be on the hypersonic. So at that point, I'm in a little bit of danger and a little worried about the state of my Ms. Marvel. Luckily for me, Ms. Marvel's decent 17 defense plus a little bit of help from Perplex managed to keep her from getting hit too much. She did get put on her stop click by major force, though it was via poison. Almost every time she saw that stop click was a poison of some sorts, which, it kind of drifts in there. It's like, well, okay, I just triggered my stop click on 1 damage. That's fantastic. So against Mike, my first regeneration roll with the Mary Marvel was a 3, which brings her up to a 12 attack. It was 2. So I had 8 attack, 8 movement with charge, 10 attack, 3 or 4 damage. Not particularly strong stats on that dial. But Mike wasn't able to consistently land very many hits. And at this point, the demon was starting to add to his troubles. So Mike's first kill ended up being on my demon, which also dealt Mystic's feedback to one of the figures he was dealing with. It was a Booster Gold. So the Booster Gold was pushing and Mysticing and pushing. He punished that Booster Gold for being on his team. But he also kept him at a safe distance so that I couldn't capitalize on that, right? So what happened from there was I was stuck in this weird situation where I'm down points. Mary Marvel is based to an iron, and he's trying as hard as he can to get pot shots with his major force at a distance until he can get close enough to really level some poison on me. But once I had iron down, courtesy of some perplex help from tin, I was able to unleash Mary Marvel. He moved into a position where he thought his booster gold was safe in the back, and because I had charge and flight, I was able to hop over all the characters that he had in that area and just take a smack on booster gold to finish him off. So now I'm catching up in points. I think the first I also managed to kill something else prior. No, that was the first thing I killed. And then at this point, I'm based to Major Force, which starts to become a problem as he's got poison. So I get poisoned down to my final click with no action tokens. And this is time for the regen, of course. And I got lucky and rolled a 6. So I'm back at top click. Very, very happy situation. And then I ended up being able to finish off the Major Force, leaving 2 of his figures behind. I didn't get a full swipe on Mike because time had run out. Because somebody had to take a washroom break in the middle of our game for courtesy of some bad sushi. But I'll let him have that. I'm not going to complain too much about that. I'll just give him a hard time in person more often about it. I've already given him a hard time. But that said, I'm up 1-0. Second round was against Jordan. You guys have seen him on the show in the past. Jordan was playing an interesting team as he had Mr. Nobody, Gold, Lead, and one of the other metal men, Iron, Gold, Lead, and Iron, and the Superman that the I'm going to defend my buddy's chest out, arms at his side, Superman. Excuse me, I'm solo here, so I have to pause for a drink here and there. But I have the I have Mr. Nobody in front of me, and Jordan moves way out with him. I have no objects except for the ones that Jordan put in front of his own zone to protect what he thought was protecting himself. It became a liability with Mary Marvel there. So I broke a wall with tin, as I've been doing most of the time. I break walls with tin and bust forward with Mary Marvel. My first attack against Mr. Nobody gets shape changed away. So I still got the object. I run away because I never made the attack. Next attempt on Mr. Nobody misses. So I'm back in there. I've got 2 action tokens. The whole time, other than Mr. Nobody, the rest of his team hasn't taken a single action. They're just sidestepping their way up. I'm just getting frustrated trying to hit this Mr. Nobody. Eventually, it comes down to Lead shows up within a decent range and line of fire to the point where I end up perplexing up Demon's range. I make a really big 5 damage attack, courtesy of the Witch being next to Demon. With a 13 attack, I can barely miss Lead unless I critically miss. I hit Lead, and Lead getting impervious off the damage. So by the time any damage stuck, Jordan was able to fight. And it was like watching a slow zombie horde come at me and just the damage unloading on me. And with that said, I just managed to slowly but surely poke away at his guys until he was down to, I think, Mr. Nobody, and worked my way through it. But that was one of the more frustrating games because his defenses were so high. His attacks were mediocre and just not – his attacks weren't sticking. My attacks weren't sticking. Things were happening very incredibly weird. And then it eventually started to swing my way. But once it started to swing my way against a team like Jordan had set up, that was it. That was how things went. So with that, I go into round 3. And round 3, I was up against Andy. Andy had pretty close to my points on his team. He had Jason Blood, the other half of my Etrigan. He had the solo half of my Etrigan, the human half of Etrigan. He also had the 90-point Superman that stands stoically saying +1 defense to you and you and you. He also had the Creeper. Watch that character in Sealed, man. He's going to be nasty. And then he also had a generic Druid and one other character a Batman, the Batman with a wall. I killed that quick. That was the first thing I needed gone. Because Batman is low points. I knew I could kill him with an object, a single shot with an object. But I just wanted the 60-point lead. Because when you get the lead, it forces your opponent to chase. And that was the situation I really wanted to be in, because it's really hard to chase my Mary Marvel because she's got such high movement with hypersonic. She's super mobile. She flies. She's got probability control, which makes it hard for attacks to stick. So that I kind of let out with the Mary Marvel. Now, he had this whole elaborate move planned out in order to get a wall broken, then charge in with something, and then he was going to outwit something on Mary Marvel. I had to stop him because none of his figures were high enough points to outwit my Mary Marvel. And already my opponent, Andy, just kind of looked at them and, that this is going to be problematic. Because he was relying very heavily on Jason Blood's ability to either A, outwit, or B, psychic blast through things. And there was, that was kind of its own thing. But when when he did attack, he brought in the Creeper. And this is a character at 75 points, has combat reflexes with 17 defense, has sidestep and stealth, I believe, traded, the Outsiders team ability, and reasonable numbers with a 10 attack, 3 damage, shape change, I believe, on the or outwit or something. I can't remember what was on the damage power. It could have been shape change. I think it was shape change. Yeah, it was shape change. And he really got into my team with the Creeper. It took quite a bit of work to get the Creeper going. So my first attempt at the Creeper was to take the Demon, pump his attack as high as possible, and do some damage. That didn't stick. His Creeper had done a damage to my Mary Marvel, so she kind of backed off, and I wanted to get an object. So I grabbed an object and took a Hail Mary. I needed a 9 to hit the Creeper, and it stuck. I was shocked because that doesn't usually happen for me. I was ready to prob twice, lose the object, and kind of go, oh, well, that's kind of what I expected, and to see what goes from there. But it didn't. It stuck, and it actually managed to one-shot the Creeper. So I've got an even further lead, though I do. Then all of a sudden I'm based by a Superman. Now Superman's defense and invincible is something to watch out for as well in the future of that figure. Keep an eye on him. He's going to frustrate some people. And it took me a number of attacks to finally get that guy down. But at this point, Andy kind of looked at the situation he was in, and he kind of looked at the team and said, he was up poop creep without a paddle. It didn't help either that he did get my Mary Marvel down to her last click. And when he made one last attack, so thinking, this is going to be the attack to finish off Mary Marvel, I actually managed to pull off my shape change roll. So this was like, I look at that third game, and it's just like everything just kind of went my way. And I mean, I complained a lot about it not going my way, and that's the thing. You hear about me complain more often than anything else, and it went incredibly well for me. So I was very happy with the outcome there, mostly because, and a lot of it is due to the fact that I had Mary Marvel with hypersonic, super strength, probability control, and a really tough character who also flies. Not as, oddly enough, a set full of Superman doesn't have as much flight as you think it does. I was even more baffled that Major Force doesn't fly. So take a water break until I get into my next part where I talk about my thoughts. I'm going to talk about my thoughts here on the whole pre-release format and some of the issues I do have with it. So I want to preface this portion of it where I have entered 2 full-blown pre-release tournaments. I've also played in some of the battle royales that were played with Superman, Wonder Woman locally, but they weren't the full event. Then there was a reason I want to stress specifically this full event. This format for WizKids I find to be very problematic for a number of reasons. I mean, one, and I want to forego the idea that the God Pack's existence even affects my opinion on this. I don't care about the God Pack's existence. It's a thing. It exists. Whoop-de-doo. If you enter a draft, you enter a draft. You should know the rules. Or if your store is not drafting, that's at your store's discretion. But what I want to talk about is the fact that we draft with sets like Superman, Wonder Woman, or not Superman, Wonder Woman, and World's Finest, and the difference between the two. For one, the draft is almost, if you play in the draft format, which is the format WizKids suggests, it is completely random. And that's on outcome and everything. And it's hard to say, well, if you're a good player, you can pull it out. Well, there's some situations where if you look at the world, and this is in the 2 major events the 2 of the draft style events that I've played in. This is a Superman, Wonder Woman full tournament and a World's Finest draft full tournament. I went 3-0 in both of those tournaments. So I'm coming from a place of victory, and I'm not and I don't like the format because of a number of major things, outliers. For one, if I go back to Superman Wonder Woman format, most people's teams were pretty reasonably pointed at about 300, 400, 500 until you got to my team, which was like 700 and something, I believe. 700. We did the math, and it was like about the peak that you could get on points or could expect on points. And I didn't feel like it was fair. For one, I'm somewhat of an experienced player, and to add to that I now have the highest points in the tournament, followed very closely by the guy I played in the first round, which is the first round was the only round of the tournament I felt was competitive because the player I was playing with had the Red Sun Superman. And we had very identical teams in the fact that we had a lot of movement, a lot of heavy attackers. And the way I looked at it, either of us, myself and this is my really good friend Chris, if either of us had won that match, we were going to be the ones that won the tournament. And it just turned out to be me. So, excuse me. I look at this and I say, well, okay, so now we've got an experienced guy who's really good at the game, or kind of good at the game. At least people tell me I'm decent at the game, locally at least. And I've been given a handicap of way too much. So, and even if they attempted the action reductions that we tried for this tournament, we only gave 3 actions in our venue, and 3 actions would have been the minimum anyway from the smallest points from that set. So it couldn't have helped in any situation in regards to that. So we now go into World's Finest, and there is such a point discrepancy between characters in that, especially in the rare section. There's about, I think when Jay did the math on the Metal Lab, there's about 3 or 4 rares that are ideal to play and pick first. That's not a good. A good. It's not good, period. And let me explain that. It's when your rare slot at a pre-release event is a 40 point, 25 point, 13 point, like when there's small figures for a pre-release event, that's not ideal because you do generally want to try out, see the new shiny, get our first dibs on the new shiny, and get your handle on it. And where this becomes a problem, of course, is when you get Crazy Quilt as your rare, and it's like, well, I don't want my rare. I'm going to take Major Force by Uncommon. And that's competitive drafting versus the expected result of a pre-release draft, where ideally you start at the rare and then go down in points, right? Ideally, you want the rarest thing from your pack, unless it's, last set was, I think, lowest. There's a couple rares that were low points in Superman Wonder Woman, but it kind of solved itself in the fact that the uncommons were a lot higher in points. This is a set similar in a lot of ways to Nick Fury, where you're going to get a 300-point sealed game, and you're practically playing with at least a pack's worth of figures, unless one of your 2 packs is a God pack, in which case, well, you have 2 tent poles on your team. Tell your opponents are going to have the time of their life, I promise you. So I want to explain how the unfortunate effects I see this possibly having in the future of the community as a whole. For one, think of all the players who got those low point packs or didn't get the really good packs, and they just weren't able to compete regardless of how much they tried. They feel bullied, and even the winners, in my case, I felt like a bully to a certain degree only because we were following WizKid's idea of the format. And I do kind of want to stress that we will continue to follow WizKid's idea of the format, which is why I want to put this out there that I think they really need to change it. I think there needs to be some kind of point set on the draft, because you can't continue to have this happen and have positive effects on the community as far as us getting along with each other. This will start to strain relationships. People will start to question their people's abilities because, well, you had the 700-point pack. How did I know that we wouldn't have won in even terms? Of people who probably could have won on even terms regardless. They're gonna call into question all the X factors, and there's too many X factors, and that causes conversations that are not ideal in this game. Even sealed does have its degree of luck, and I say that all the time. Everybody says sealed is even ground, and I say that's fine until you open the packs, and then it's not even ground. And that happens. That's the nature of the beast that we play. But sealed, you have a little bit better chance than a play everything draft. There's a limitation on points. You have 2 packs to work from, so there's a margin of error, I like to call it, on the packs. Pack 1 sucked. Pack 2 has a chance of being better, but 2 mediocre packs, you could still turn into something. 2 really bad packs, you might be hard pressed to work into something, but who knows? Make it work, right? Sometimes you just got to play the patient game and go for the 3-0 or the 4-0, depending on how big the tournament is. So when I'm going into the next couple of weeks, or the next week, my idea is I want to play as much of the sealed as I possibly can, because this is the set for the opens, which is a sealed environment for Heroclix. So I want to be as experienced and well played and weather worn in the set as I possibly can. But I also want to put it out there to WizKids that they got to do something about this draft format. I do think it does have to absolutely have some kind of update to it, a point cap, something. Maybe throw some more product to the store, do a 2-pack sealed, or do a 2-pack draft and build a 300-point team out of that. Because when you're drafting with a build in mind, you get a little bit more focused on making sure that what you draft works to your end game. Sometimes in that first pack, you get that 300-point figure and the rest is all fluff, but you might see things that you pull in the next couple packs where you can drop that World's Finest to a 200-point value and add some fluff to them. You can maybe take some of the figures that you have there and drop them down to a lower point value, or add some support to things and just go at that. So that's kind of the way I foresee the idea of the future of this event. I have no problem with the pre-release idea. The set, getting a taste of the set before the set comes out, fantastic idea. They did it in the way past too, but that was also proper sealed. I've been to many of those events that actually used to occur back in the day. I believe it was Armor War, Fantastic Forces was Armor Wars. I went to the pre-releases for both those sets. And those were regular sealed. I wouldn't mind getting a chance to do that again, or have them do that again as the format. I mean, I understand there's a limitation on the product to a certain degree, and they don't want to send out too much product out there. But this play everything draft is not the most ideal format to go into this with, and that's having been on the winning end of it. So that's kind of my thoughts as far as that's concerned. I will start addressing questions. Check it out, facebook.com/marriedwithclix. If you have questions you want to ask, find one of the posts, either the post that I linked this video in, or the post where I originally announced that I was going to do this. And I will address questions as lengthy or as verbosely as I possibly can, though without going into too much strategy in regards to the game, because as we promised, the Meta Lab is doing a piece-by-piece sealed review of this set to kind of prep everybody for the WizKids Opens and the amount of sealed that we're kind of looking forward to in this set. So I want to just kind of stress that. So we actually have a question here from Ron Messbarger. How do you feel about the multiple Batman and Superman pieces in one set? And also, do you feel the shifting focus trait could affect the meta? Long term, it may have something to do with the meta as far as the meta gameplay is concerned. The ability to switch out Batmans and Supermans and the ones that they have with specific ideas, it could be interesting. Obviously, it won't work with the ID cards because of the way that ID cards disallow the ability to switch in, switch out. But I do have one complaint about these, and this is the fact that we have 2 characters that take up 8 slots. And it's the fact that we have 4 Batmans and 4 Superman, but technically, if you field one of them, you're playing all 4 of each. Right, and you're switching between them all, depending on what you need for the moment. And it's not an ideal situation for a set. That is 8 slots out of 60 taken up by 2 characters. And though yes, it's a Batman and Superman set, it's not Batman to the degree that I want to like. The design idea is you put that one Batman, one Superman on the board, switch them to the thing that you need at the moment, and play them as you expect them to be used. Whereas, you know, when we had Superman and Wonder Woman, they were different eras of the character, not like different states of a single battle of the character. And I kind of have an issue with that design because, again, I'm gonna stress this deeply. It is 8 slots taken up by effectively the same character, and it's a neat effect. I don't I don't think it's completely worthless. That Superman is cool. Three of the four Supermans I think are really neat. I haven't really seen Blaster Eye Superman in action. Wall Batman, I smashed with a giant rock, so I didn't get to see him in action. Who else did I? And I haven't seen any of the Batman really kind of rolling or hating. Though I did see that Batman with 12 attack and 3 damage. That's in charge. That's bonkers. It's a great Batman. So, but I have an issue with the design choice that they had with the Batmans and the Supermans. But ultimately, I want to see them in action first before I kind of give up on them altogether. I'm sure I'll try them and fall in love and use the effect to as much of my advantage as I possibly can. I just, as far as a collection is concerned, the idea that I have to, have 4 of this guy just to kind of work this one spot on my map is, it doesn't sit well with me. But again, this is at a seeing eye distance. Like, hey, there's 4 Supermen. All of them are 90 points, but they switch between each other. So technically, I'm only taking up 1 slot on my map, but I'm taking up 4 slots in my collection. I'm repeating myself. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I'm going to take a drink and see if we get any more questions in the meantime. But again, just throw your questions at us if you have any. And I do have a couple other things I kind of want to touch on with regards to the God Pack thing that was mentioned. But anyway, going in. This is one of those neat things about the Metal Lab that's different from me going solo. The Metal Lab, I say, talk, drink, and I can get away with that. But I'm not quite the professional broadcaster to able to sit here for 2 hours and just yap without having. I need the liquids in me to make this work. So I want to talk about the issue of God Pack Green. And now that we're past the pre-releases, go get them, boys. All yours. Go open the bricks, whatever. If your pre-releases are over next Wednesday, go nuts about them. Buy all the cases. I don't care. But when it comes to the way people were acting with regards to the idea of walking away with, if you happen to pull this God Pack in a pre-release, that's missing the point of a draft. Now, I want to kind of back myself up on this. Is regardless of the game that you play, when you walk into a draft situation, the idea isn't that that pack is yours. That's false logic. The idea is you are walking in with the grand understanding that you are going to draft. Every game in the world does this. That has some kind of draft. Now, WizKids got a little stern about it and said, well, technically you're taking prize support and you shouldn't be allowed to leave. What are we as judges supposed to do? Hit somebody if they try to leave? It's not going to happen, right? We don't need to be starting a fight. But we also don't need the very idea of this causing negative attitudes in the community as well. And if you watched Facebook or you watched some of the threads that opened up in conversations about this, it got nasty at points. People outright blatantly planning to just completely walk out with the packs and ruining draft, splash to draft, as I like to call it. I don't like that kind of attitude. But at the same time, you got to understand going in what you're walking into, right? So if you're walking into an event at my store or the Comic Warehouse, or either Amber, myself, or our other judge, Aiden, is running the event, we will make it explicitly clear that if it's a draft, you are not allowed to walk out before the draft is done. Though we're a little bit more lenient on the wait until the end of the 3rd round thing, though, I mean, you're coming to a tournament, but emergencies happen. Kids get sick. Babysitters have emergencies and you have to go get them. A lot of our player base is adults. Things happen. I'm not going to fault them on that, and I'm also most certainly not going to take their stuff away. But if you leave before all 5 figures are drafted, you're messing up the draft and messing up the point. And that's another reason I think WizKids just has to shift to a sealed format for this. The original pre-releases were sealed and they were good. And this draft thing, though well-intentioned, the way it's presented isn't good. So they either have to find the middle ground and set a point value and base it possibly on the set, look at the set's point average per pack point average, and decide on a point total from there. so that people are actually more inclined to say, okay, well, if this is a set that averages a 250-point build, I get 250 points to build with. If I take 150 points, the next pack I look at, I'm looking at smaller things, and then adds a little bit more depth to the strategy of it. Of course, you're still going to have Dillbag McWienerstein over here picking the rares. That's going to happen. That's just a thing. But it adds a level of depth and complexity to the draft as opposed to get all the points and I'm going to be fine. That's not a draft. That's not strategy. That's just fun. And that turns this into a lottery. And then I want to talk, going past the God Pack greed, to the prize greed. You guys, I appreciate the awesome prizing, but not in this format. Because effectively you've added a further lottery element to it. And I think we discussed this at length with the Metal Lab, where World's Finest or Superman Wonder Woman, we gave away the extra brick. The brick was there. It wasn't being drafted. It wasn't being sealed. Give it away, whatever, right? Turn it into extra packs or something for the prizing, because when you add something of that level, like this figure that's never been released and what was previously con exclusive as the prize, people are definitely not going to be happy if they don't pull a super rare, one of the 3 high point rares in the set, whatever they need to, or they think they need in order to be competitive in this particular environment. And I don't blame them for being upset about it. And I'm not a big fan of the conversation styling that stems from this format in general. So I do definitely want to stress that they look to a average point per pack kind of thing, or go back to sealed as it originally was, or something if they're going to have prizing of that level. If they're gonna go back and revert to what they did with Superman Wonder Woman and just cut 2 packs off the end of it, or if there's a super booster in the set, put aside the super booster for the prizes, that's fine, because that's just things guys can get off the shelf. But if it's something like that, Gotham by Gaslight Batman or the Vampire Batman, you're going to have that extra competitive edge out of people, and then people are not going to be happy if they pull crap and can't possibly eke out a win with that. And if you've heard Jay talk about it on the Metal Lab, his teams, I do agree with him. He pulled garbage and had to play with garbage, and he hasn't seen over 300 points in 2 drafts in the set, and that's problematic for his kind of mindset about it. And he's going to go into the next one thinking to himself, well, I did so terribly in all these other drafts that were pull the pack and see what happens, that he's not going to be happy about the idea of the next result. So I do kind of want to stress how much I think this format needs to change. I'm going to see if there's any more questions, and we're just about wrapping it up here. So, all right. Yep, that's about all we got. So I wanted to give everybody a little bit of a chance to get a little bit more content, because we were a little low on content. Next week is going to pick up again, because World's Finest will be out. We'll have significantly more information to work on with both Metafix and Dial It Up. We also have our unboxing next Wednesday. I'm helping with another unboxing on Wednesday too. I'm going to be so beat for that. I'm also so excited and pumped for this set. So I'm different. I'm like that. I'm excited for World's Finest. A lot of people are complaining about it. A lot of people, I kind of see it as Crisis Justice League 2.0, but where there's a lot of improvements on a lot of those characters from those 2 sets. So anyway, I want to thank those of you who joined us tonight, and I want to thank everybody who's watching in the archive as well. It's been a pleasure just kind of share, to die on camera for you, to share my experiences of this event with you. And I kind of hope somebody important saw my little diatribe about how something about this format has to change, because even coming from success, I don't feel good about my wins in either I don't feel good about my 3-0 results in either event. So have a good night, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed my little solo adventure.